In the busy city of Lagos, there lived a very wealthy couple, Mr. Ike and his wife, Didi. Ike and Didi were a very hard-working couple, and they had gathered their wealth from scratch. When Ike met Didi, he had only one shop where he sold male and female wear, but after Didi taught him how to grow his business and increase his income, Ike opened 3 more shops in the space of 2 years. To Ike, Didi was God sent. Unlike other girls who were only interested in getting benefits from Ike, Didi was different. She was more concerned about him and his growth. Ike and Didi dated for 3 years before they eventually got married. Luckily for them, in the first year of their marriage, Didi got pregnant and gave birth to a boy. Before Ike and Didi got married, they had already agreed that they would have only one child so they could take good care of him and give him the best education. Ike's older brother had 5 children, and when Ike saw how much his brother toiled and suffered to care for his kids, he decided that he wanted just one child. When their son was born, Ike and Didi named him Jefferson. From his childhood, Ike had always loved the name Jefferson, so he gave it to his first son. As a child and even a teenager, there was nothing Jefferson asked for that his parents did not give him. Ike and Didi treated their son like a little prince, and they showered him with so much love. As a teenage boy in the university, Jefferson met a girl named Cynthia. Cynthia and Jefferson were in the same department and saw each other often. As for Jefferson, the first time he saw Cynthia in the midst of her friends was love at first sight. Back in secondary school, Jefferson did not have a girlfriend and had always looked forward to having one. After months of observing Cynthia, one day, while Cynthia and her group of friends were waiting in class for lectures to begin, Jefferson went to her and asked to speak to her. "Hi, Jefferson, but my friends call me Jeff," Jefferson introduced himself. "I'm Cynthia," Cynthia answered shyly. Cynthia was too shy to talk to Jeff because even before Jefferson approached her, her friends already told her that Jefferson liked her. They could tell from the way he was constantly staring at her. "Would it be okay if we went out for lunch together after class today?" Jefferson asked. "Sure, that's fine," Cynthia replied. "Okay, please, let me have your number so I can call you later today," Jefferson said before returning to his friends. Later that day, after their lectures, Jefferson and Cynthia went to a school food canteen and had lunch together. Although he did not tell Cynthia that day that he liked her and wanted her to be his girlfriend, Cynthia already knew. About a month after Jefferson and Cynthia began to hang out together, Jefferson finally expressed his feelings. He asked Cynthia out, and she said yes. Shortly after Cynthia said yes to Jefferson, Jefferson took her home to his parents and introduced her as his girlfriend. The minute Didi, Jefferson's mother, saw Cynthia, she liked her. Cynthia was also from a wealthy family and was her parents' only child. The only difference between Cynthia and Jefferson was that Cynthia's parents were barely around and were always traveling. So, growing up, Cynthia spent more time with her nanny, aunt, and some of her older cousins. Cynthia's mother owned a multi-million-dollar business, which required her to shuffle countries occasionally. When Cynthia met Didi, she felt at peace because of how Didi welcomed and accepted her instantly. Not only that, but Didi treated Cynthia like the daughter she never had. She would cook for Cynthia, play with her, and sometimes even take Cynthia shopping. It even reached a point where Didi would refuse to go shopping if Cynthia did not go with her. Jefferson was so pleased when he saw how close his mother and Cynthia were. This alone even encouraged him to take his relationship more seriously with Cynthia. Back in the university, everybody knew that Cynthia was Jefferson's girlfriend. Even people who were not in his department figured that the two lovebirds were dating because they were always seen together. Because of this, even people who admired Cynthia could not get close to her because they knew she was already taken. As the years passed, Cynthia and Jefferson's relationship waxed stronger. Even though there were days when they had fights and misunderstandings, nothing could separate them. Since Jefferson's course of study was 5 years long and Cynthia's course was 4 years, Jefferson graduated first before Cynthia, and a few months after his graduation, he went for his NYSC. "Babe, I promise I will fly home once every month to check on you. Or if you have nothing to do at school, you can come and see me," Jefferson said to Cynthia. The day before Jefferson left for his NYSC camp, Cynthia went over to sleep at his house to help him pack his bags. "You don't have to come home every month. Have you forgotten that we will speak to each other daily?" Cynthia asked with a soft smile. "My queen. I love you so much, and I don't think I can stay that long without seeing you," Jefferson said. "But I don't think your mom will like the idea of you coming home every month. What about once in 3 months? If you're thinking I will stop coming to see your parents, then you're wrong. Nothing will change, this is my second home," Cynthia said. "Trust me, Mom, we love the idea. But you're right, coming home every month is a lot. The whole idea of living is to experience life without my parents. So, we'll do once in 3 months," Jefferson said. While Jefferson and Cynthia were talking, his mother knocked on his room before entering. "My babies, dinner is ready. You both should come downstairs before it gets cold," Didi said with a smile, and then she left. "All right, Mom. We are coming," Cynthia said. "Come on, let's go downstairs before your mom comes back here." "We will come back and pack after dinner," Cynthia said. Without wasting time, Cynthia and Jefferson went downstairs to the dining where their food had already been placed on the table. Jefferson's father, Ike, was already waiting for them, and when they arrived, everyone began to eat. "Jeff, my boy, are you almost done packing?" Ike asked. "Yes, Dad, Cynthia is helping me. We just have very little left to pack," Jefferson answered. "Okay, I have spoken with the house agent in Abuja. Once you're out of camp, they will take you around to check for your 1-bedroom apartment," Ike said. "Thank you, Dad," Jefferson said with a smile. "So, Cynthia, tell us, will you miss Jeff? 'Cause you look sad already," Didi said. "Yes, Mom, I will miss him. We have agreed that he will come home once every 3 months to see us, or I will visit him," Cynthia said. "That's a great development. But I need to know, you won't disappear on us after Jeff leaves, right?" Didi asked. "Of course not, Mom. This is my second home, and I'll be here whenever you need me," Cynthia answered. "Please, I need you now more than ever. You know you're already like a daughter to me, so please don't stop coming. If you do, I will be very lonely," Didi said. "Don't worry, Mom. I will be here. I promised Jefferson that I wouldn't stop coming," Cynthia smiled. "All right then, you guys should hurry with the dinner so you can continue packing. Jefferson needs to go to bed early. His flight is scheduled for 7 a.m., and he needs to be up before 6 a.m. so he can meet up," Didi said. About 10 minutes after Didi instructed them to hurry with their food, Jefferson and Cynthia finished eating. "No, Cynthia, don't worry about the dishes, I will take them myself," Didi said when Cynthia tried to pack her plates and Jefferson's plate. "Don't worry, Mom, it won't take a minute," Cynthia said, then she picked up the plates and walked briskly to the kitchen. Before Didi could say another word, Cynthia was already in the kitchen, and she knew nothing she could say would make Cynthia leave the plates. "She does that all the time," Didi said to Ike. "Yes, that's to show you that she respects you and will not let her mother do her dishes," Ike said. Later that evening, after doing the dishes, Cynthia returned to help Jefferson pack up what was left, and after they were done, the two of them went to bed. The following morning, Jefferson woke up early, and his parents drove him to the airport. "If you need anything, Jeff, don't forget to call me," Ike said to Jeff. "You know me, Dad, if I need anything, you will be the first person I'll call," Jefferson said. "I'm going to miss you so much, my queen." Please promise that you'll wait for me, Jefferson said as he hugged Cynthia. Of course, Jeff, you know I will wait for you. You are all I have, and I love you so much, Cynthia responded. After the two hugged, Jefferson turned to his mother and briefly hugged her, then entered the plane. Immediately Jefferson entered, Didi, Ike and Cynthia turned back, and they headed home. So, Cynthia, will you return to the hostel today or will you stay with us? The house would be so lonely without Jeff, Didi said. I'll stay with you, Mom. I can even stay for a few more days if you want, and I can go to school from there if necessary, Cynthia said. Are you sure you want that too? I don't want you to feel like I'm forcing this on you, Didi said. No, not at all. You're not forcing anything on me. I want to spend time with you and Dad. I have already downloaded a couple of recipes, and I have a long list of things I want to cook for you, Cynthia said with a smile. Do you need to stop by the market? Because I love to try out new things, Ike asked. Yes, Dad. I would love that, Cynthia said. After their conversation, Ike drove Cynthia and Didi to the market and they went to shop for the things they needed. That afternoon, when the family returned home, Cynthia made a special meal for them. It was a Caribbean food she had seen on YouTube, and somehow, she managed to cook it right. In the days that followed, Cynthia spent quality time with Jefferson's parents, and they made sure they treated her like their own child. Even without asking, I could give Cynthia some money. Sometimes, if he went out and he saw a dress or shoe that would look great on Cynthia, he would buy them for her. That wasn't all. Didi also spoiled Cynthia. Almost every morning, Didi would wake up very early to make breakfast for Cynthia, and whenever Cynthia didn't have anything to do at school, they would either go shopping or go see a movie. Because Didi was always shopping for Cynthia, she had so many new clothes, shoes, and other things she had not used yet, and she kept buying more. As for Jefferson, every night before Cynthia went to bed, she would make sure she called him, and they would speak for hours. The two lovebirds continued like this until the first 3 months passed. When 3 months passed, Jefferson returned home just as he had agreed with Cynthia. The day Jefferson returned home, Didi, Cynthia, and Ike were very happy. The moment Jefferson stepped out of his father's car, Cynthia ran to him and hugged him tightly. You look so different, see how much weight you have lost, Cynthia said. What can I say? Not eating my mother's food made me this way, Jefferson said and then burst into laughter. So you'll only be spending a week with us? Cynthia asked. Yes, just 1 week. It's all I could get, Jefferson answered. Alright, let's go inside. Cynthia, Jefferson will be here for a week, I'm sure it will have enough time to ask all of your questions. Let him go inside and freshen up, he had a very long journey, Ike said. For the 1 week Jefferson visited, Cynthia and Didi ensured he had fun. They took good care of him, and surprisingly, he gained a bit of weight before he left. When another 3 months passed, Cynthia traveled to Abuja to spend time with Jefferson and stayed there for 2 weeks. Before Cynthia traveled to see Jefferson, she had told Didi and Ike that she would only be there for a week, but when a week passed and Cynthia didn't mention anything about returning home, Didi began to call her. Cynthia, you told us you would only be away for a week. It's been 9 days now, and you haven't said anything about returning home, Didi said over the phone. Didi had missed Cynthia so much that she was forced to call her. Oh, Mom, Jefferson told me to stay for 2 weeks, and I changed my mind, Cynthia said. You didn't tell us that. I have been expecting that you would call us and tell us you were on your way back home, Didi said. Don't worry, Mom, I won't stay past 2 weeks. In fact, I will be home this Saturday, Cynthia said. Are you sure? Didi asked. Yes, I am sure. I promise I will be back on Saturday, Cynthia said. Alright then, we have a deal. That reminds me, The Classy Lady Boutique has that bag you showed me the other day. Should I get it for you so it's not sold out before you return? Didi asked. Really? Cynthia asked excitedly. Yes, please. I would love that. Thank you so much, Mom. I love you, Cynthia added. I love you too, my princess. See you on Saturday, Didi said before ending the call. While Jefferson was serving, Cynthia was wrapping up her final year project, and it was only a matter of time before she left for her NYSC. Coincidentally, the same month Cynthia graduated from the university, Jefferson completed his NYSC and returned home. But instead of leaving for her NYSC immediately, Cynthia decided to spend a few more months at home with Jefferson and his family. 6 months after Jefferson returned, Cynthia began to prepare for her NYSC. Luckily for Cynthia, she was posted to a neighboring state, where it would only take her 4 hours to return home. While serving, Cynthia did not even feel like she was away from home. On some weekends, she would easily travel back home to be with Jefferson and his family, and sometimes, Didi would travel to see Cynthia and spend some days with her. Eventually, 1 year passed, and after Cynthia completed her NYSC, she returned home. The day Cynthia returned to her state, she didn't go to her parents' house. She went straight to Jefferson's house to stay with them because she already knew her parents would not be at home. Are you enjoying this story? Tell your favorite part in the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also, do not forget to turn on your notification button so you can get a buzz whenever we upload a new story. Shortly after Cynthia arrived at Jefferson's house, the most surprising thing happened. Jefferson proposed to Cynthia, and she said yes. By this time, Jefferson was running one of his father's companies, and he was doing great financially. He was no longer the young boy who depended on his parents for money, but he made his own money. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for agreeing to marry me, Jefferson said. You know I would never say no to you, Cynthia said as she hugged Jefferson. That day, Didi was so happy, she was glad that Cynthia would officially become her daughter-in-law. To show her happiness, she paid for a 1-week vacation in Dubai for Jefferson and Cynthia. As soon as Jefferson and Cynthia returned from their mini vacation, they began to plan their wedding and make all the preparations. For months after Cynthia and Jefferson began planning their wedding, they got married and moved into their new apartment. The new apartment was a gift from Didi, and it had almost everything they needed. The first few weeks after Jefferson and Cynthia tied the knot, none of their parents visited their home, but after 2 months passed, Didi began to visit them. Since Jefferson was running one of his father's companies, the nature of his job required that he travel from time to time. Sometimes, Jefferson did not even have the time to plan his travel, a meeting would suddenly come up, and he would have to leave. As a result, Jefferson would sometimes travel for days and sometimes weeks, depending on where he traveled. Even though Cynthia had a job, 90% of the time, her job required her to work from home, and being alone most of the time took its toll on her. Because she was bored, Cynthia invited one of her cousins to stay with her for a while. Cynthia grew up with her cousin, so the two women were almost like best friends. The only difference was that Cynthia was married, while her cousin was still single. So you mean to tell me that you haven't seen your husband in the past 3 weeks? Cynthia's cousin asked when she arrived at Cynthia's house. Yes, he is still in Canada and will be back next week, Cynthia answered. Can you please stay with me until my husband returns? This empty house is driving me crazy, Cynthia said. Sure, but on one condition. If you let me do it, Cynthia's cousin winked. Do what? Cynthia asked. You know what I mean. Ever since you met Jefferson, we just stopped doing it and I have missed you so much. Look at how sexy you are now, Cynthia's cousin said. I'm married now and cannot do such a thing. Whatever happened in the past remains in the past, Cynthia said. Is that so? Cynthia's cousin asked, Then she got up from where she sat and walked towards Cynthia and began to touch her boobs. "Stop it, please. I can't do this." Cynthia tried to push her cousin's hand away, but before she could, her cousin began to kiss her, and Cynthia returned the kisses. "I missed you so much," Cynthia's cousin said as she forced off Cynthia's clothes in the living room. Then, the two ladies fell on the couch and began to kiss each other passionately. Almost immediately, Didi knocked on Cynthia's door, and before Cynthia could answer, Didi walked into the living room. "Oh my gosh!" Didi screamed when she saw Cynthia and her cousin kissing passionately and touching each other's breasts. Because Cynthia was enjoying the heat of the moment, she didn't hear when Didi walked in. It was only when Didi screamed that Cynthia realized what had happened. "Oh my God! Mom, it's not what you think." Cynthia got up and ran to Jefferson's mom, who was about to leave. Because Cynthia was confused, she didn't even remember to wear clothes. "Go and put on some clothes. Then explain to me what happened," Didi said after Cynthia begged her not to leave. As for Cynthia's cousin, the minute Didi caught them, she wore her clothes and ran out of the house. "Mom, I'm so sorry. It's not what you think it is. That's my cousin who just left, and she made me do it," Cynthia said in a teary voice. "I don't understand what you mean by she made you do it. I saw you kissing your cousin passionately just now," Didi said. "Mom, the truth is, when we were younger, we used to do stuff like this all the time. But after I met Jefferson, I stopped. When I called her to come and stay with me until Jefferson returned, I had no idea she would try and seduce me," Cynthia said. "So, you're telling me that you're bisexual?" Didi asked. "No, Mom. I didn't really know what I was doing until I grew older. She made me believe it was the right thing to do," Cynthia said. "Please, Mom, don't tell Jefferson about this. I promise that it will never happen again," Cynthia said. "Cynthia, you just cheated on your husband with another woman. That's very wrong. If I wasn't here, I'm certain you would have slept with each other. That's if you didn't do that already," Didi said. "I swear, Mom, we didn't do anything," Cynthia said. "This is very difficult, Cynthia, and I don't know what to do," Didi said. "Please, Mom, I'll do anything you tell me to do. Please, don't tell Jefferson, I beg you," Cynthia begged. By this time, Cynthia had cried so much that her face literally turned red. "Will you do anything?" Didi asked. "Are you sure about that?" "I swear, Mom. I will do anything," Cynthia said. "You see, Cynthia, your father-in-law no longer satisfies me the way I want, and I've been wondering what it feels like to be satisfied by another woman. At first, I didn't really think about it, but when I saw your naked body, it made me crave you," Didi said. "I don't understand, Mom, what do you mean?" Cynthia asked in a confused tone. "I want us to become partners. That's the only way I will not tell Jefferson what I saw," Didi said. "No, Mom. I can't do such a thing. I already told you what happened. I am not a lesbian, and I cannot sleep with you. What do you think will happen if Jefferson ever finds out?" Cynthia said. "How is he going to find out if no one tells him? Look, it's either you do this, or I call Jefferson right now and tell him I caught you and your cousin sleeping together on your matrimonial bed," Didi threatened. "But that's not true. We only kissed here in the living room, and that was all," Cynthia cried. "Let's see who he will believe. His cheating wife or his mother," Didi smiled. "Please, Mom. We cannot do this. You're like my mother, and I cannot do such an unholy thing with you," Cynthia said. "Like your mother, but not your mother. Look, Cynthia, you have today to decide. By tomorrow morning, I want a response from you, and for your sake, I hope it's positive," Didi said before leaving Cynthia's house. After Didi left, Cynthia fell to the floor and cried. She cried so much that her eyes turned red and nearly fell out of her sockets. That night, Cynthia could not sleep. She kept thinking of the right thing to do. Cynthia knew that if she tried to tell Jefferson the truth, she would lose her young marriage, so she agreed to do what Didi had asked. The following morning, after much contemplation, Cynthia texted Didi, and 2 hours later, Didi arrived at her house. "I'm glad you made the right decision, my princess," Didi said as she kissed Cynthia. "You know, I had a feeling you would agree, so last night, I watched some videos and can now say that I'm 100% prepared," Didi said excitedly. When Didi noticed that Cynthia was not cheerful and didn't look happy, she turned to her and said, "Don't worry, darling. Your husband is never going to find out. We will make this our own dirty little secret." That afternoon, Cynthia and Didi did it in the living room. After they were done, Didi got up, kissed Cynthia, and went into her kitchen to make lunch for them. "I never thought I would say this, but I really enjoyed you," Didi said while having lunch with Cynthia. "Thank you," Didi answered coldly. "Come on, darling, what's with the long face? We just had fun, you should be happy. Didn't you enjoy it too?" Didi asked. "I did," Cynthia answered. "Please, Mom, let's not do this anymore. I feel very horrible inside, and I can't bring myself to accept that I slept with my mother-in-law," Cynthia begged. "I'm sorry, honey, but we cannot stop. We just got started, why are you so uptight? Relax and have fun. We can do this for years, and no one will know," Didi said. "Please, Mom, I can't. I prefer to tell Jefferson I cheated on him with my cousin than for him to find out I'm sleeping with his mother," Cynthia cried. "It's already too late. You have to accept the fact that we are now partners. The sooner you accept that, the better," Didi said. From that day onward, Didi visited Cynthia almost every day. Even when Jefferson returned from his travels, Didi would still go to the house. When Jefferson returned, and he noticed that his mother was getting closer to Cynthia, he was very happy. "Babe, thank you so much for being the daughter my mother had always wanted. I can see that she loves you so much, and it makes me very happy," Jefferson said to Cynthia one evening while they were in bed. "You're welcome, babe. But I have something to say," Cynthia said. "What is it?" Jefferson asked. "It's about your mom. I think she visits us too much and barely gives us any privacy. The whole time you were away, she was literally sleeping here, and most times, I feel suffocated," Cynthia said. "Relax, honey, Mom is just being herself. You know she gets bored easily, so maybe she comes here to spend time with you," Jefferson said. "But I still think it's too much. She could visit once or twice a month instead of coming here almost every day," Cynthia said. "Come on, Cynthia. You and Mom are close, and you never used to have a problem with her visiting us regularly. Is something wrong?" Jefferson asked. "No, not at all. I just..." Cynthia stuttered. "You know what? Forget about it. It's fine. She can come as many times as she likes," Cynthia said. "Are you sure everything is okay?" Jefferson asked again. "Yes, of course everything is okay. I guess I'm just stressed from work," Cynthia said, and then she kissed Jefferson goodnight. Even though Cynthia claimed everything was alright, Jefferson suspected that something was wrong. He knew Cynthia loved his mother and always wanted to spend time with her. So, when Cynthia suggested that Didi should stop visiting regularly, he became suspicious. About a week after Jefferson and Cynthia had that conversation about Didi, Jefferson had another impromptu meeting. Since the meeting was happening in another state, Jefferson told his wife and his mother that he wouldn't be back until after 4 days, and then he left. That same day, Jefferson left for the airport. About an hour later, Didi drove to Jefferson's house to yell at Cynthia. You silly girl, why haven't you been taking my calls? You're really pushing me, Didi yelled. I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't see your calls, Didi said in a shaky voice. Jefferson is on his way to Enugu, right? Didi asked to be sure Jefferson was not in the house. Yes, Cynthia answered. Okay, that's great news. Now, take off your clothes. I have been dying to sleep with you again, Didi said. No, Mom, I can't do this anymore. I love my husband and can't keep betraying him like this. Jefferson will not forgive me if he finds out, Cynthia said while crying. I don't care what you think. Take off your clothes right now, Didi said as she struggled to remove Cynthia's blouse. No, I don't want to. Get out of my house right now. Cynthia yelled angrily. Did you just raise your voice at me? Didi asked in shock. Yes, Mom. She did. Please get out of my house, Jefferson's voice said from behind Didi. Jefferson. Didi and Cynthia said in shock. What are you doing here? I thought you were on your way to Enugu. Mom came over to spend some time with me, Cynthia lied. There's no need to lie, Cynthia, I know what has been happening. My mother has been forcing you to sleep with her, Jefferson said. Geez. That's not true, Cynthia tried to lie. Cynthia. Ever since we had that conversation that night, I watched you and my mom very closely, and I noticed something. Since I had doubts, I installed some cameras in the house and just watched everything that happened on my way here, Jefferson said. That's a lie, son. I caught your wife here cheating on you with another girl, Didi said. And you decided to blackmail her by forcing her to sleep with you? Jefferson yelled, how could you do such a thing, Mom? I trusted you. You know how much I love Cynthia, yet you decided to destroy my home and happiness, Jefferson said. I'm so sorry, son. I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me, Didi begged. There's no need to beg, Mom. I never want to see you both again. In case you never see me in your house, when Dad asks why, tell him that you were having an affair with my wife, Jefferson said before walking out of them. Jefferson, please. Don't do this to me. I was a victim here, Cynthia begged. No, you weren't. You had the power to stop this before it even started, but you didn't. You will be hearing from my lawyer soon, Jefferson said, then he left. After Jefferson left, Cynthia packed her things and left. Months later, she divorced Jefferson, and they went their separate ways. As for Didi, Jefferson never saw her again. That day, he traveled to a different state, and up until his mother died years later, he never forgave her. Did you enjoy this story? Tell your favorite part in the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also, do not forget to turn on your notification button so you can get a buzz whenever we upload a new story. Thank you.